Somewhere in a laboratory right now, a machine is watching you. Not watching like a camera, watching like something that learns. It sees how you walk, how you pick up a coffee cup, how you comfort someone who is crying. And it is practicing. For centuries, we told ourselves machines will never be like us. They can't feel, they can't think, they can't be. But what happens when we are wrong? Right now, in 2025, humanoid robots are walking off factory floors and into our world, into our homes, into our hospitals, into our lives. And the question that no one can quite answer yet, the question that will define the next 100 years of human civilization, are we building our greatest invention or our final one? Welcome to Unvelar, where we pull back the curtain on the ideas that are quietly reshaping your world. Humans have always built tools to extend what we can do. The wheel extended our legs. The printing press extended our voice. The computer extended our mind. But the humanoid robot? That's different. Because for the first time in history, we are building something shaped like us. Something that stands on two legs, uses two hands, and perceives the world the way we do. And this isn't science fiction anymore. Companies like Boston Dynamics, Tesla, Figure AI, Agility Robotics, and Apptronic are in a race not to the moon, but to something potentially more consequential. They're racing to build the first truly capable, general-purpose humanoid robot. So in the next 10 minutes, we're going to take you through that race, through the breakthroughs, through the dangers, and through the extraordinary future that waits on the other side. Here's what we'll cover today. 6 chapters, one question threading through all of them. What does it mean to build something human? Let's find out together and see where this incredible journey leads us. The dream of building a mechanical human being is older than electricity. In the 1700s, a Swiss watchmaker named Pierre Jacques Droz built a small automaton, a mechanical boy, that could dip a quill pen in ink and write complete sentences. Audiences were terrified. Some thought it was possessed, others thought it was a miracle. But here's what strikes me. That wasn't a robot trying to be useful. That was a human trying to prove something. Trying to prove that life itself could be replicated. Fast forward to the 20th century. Robots got practical. They welded cars. They packaged cereal. But they were chained to one task, one motion, one conveyor belt. They were powerful. They were precise. But they were not humanoid. Then something changed. In 1986, Honda launched a secret project. They wanted to build a robot that could navigate the same world humans inhabit. Stairs, doorways, uneven ground. It took them 13 years. But in 2000, they unveiled Asimo. And for one brief moment, the world saw a robot walk up a staircase and held its breath. And now, just 25 years later, we've gone from that to something you won't believe. Here's a fact that should stop you in your tracks. In 2024, a humanoid robot called Figure 01 held a full, unscripted conversation with a human, understanding context and responding naturally. It even handed over an apple without being told how to grip it. Think about what that means. That robot didn't just follow a command, it understood the situation. Boston Dynamics Atlas is arguably the most physically capable robot on Earth, performing movements that would injure most athletes. Tesla's Optimus is Elon Musk's bet that robots will eventually outnumber humans, starting in factories and moving to your home. Figure A1 and Agility's Digit are moving faster than expected, already being deployed in real-world logistics. Goldman Sachs estimates this market could reach $38 billion by 2035. But what problem are they actually solving? The answer is darker and more urgent than most people realize. Join me as we find out why. Here's something most people don't know. Japan is running out of workers. Not slowly, rapidly. By 2040, Japan will have lost nearly 20% of its workforce to aging. South Korea, Germany, China, even the United States, all facing versions of the same crisis. The jobs that keep civilization running, the ones in warehouses, in elder care, in construction, are becoming impossible to fill. And here's the brutal honesty. Humans don't want to do many of them. Not because we are lazy, but because they are dangerous, repetitive, physically destroying. A humanoid robot doesn't get a back injury lifting a patient. It doesn't suffer repetitive strain from sorting packages for 10 hours. It doesn't need sleep. This isn't about replacing people for profit, at least not entirely. In some cases, it's about filling a void that humans physically cannot fill. But here's a question that keeps economists up at night. When we solve the labor shortage with robots, what happens to the humans who still need to work? And what happens to their dignity, their purpose, their identity? That question is a door we've already walked through, and we can't walk back. But before we get there, we need to talk about the brain behind the body. A humanoid body is remarkable, but without the right mind, it's just an expensive statue. So what changed? What pushed humanoid robots from clunky and limited to genuinely intelligent? Two words: large language models. When companies started giving robots access to the same AI that powers ChatGPT, something extraordinary happened. Robots stopped needing to be programmed for every situation. They started being able to reason about situations they'd never seen before. Drop a cup. The old robot freezes. That wasn't in its code. The new robot, it looks at the cup, it considers, it picks it up. Figure AI's demonstration in 2024 showed a robot that could receive a verbal request: "Can you give me something to eat?" Scan the environment, identify an apple, and hand it over. No specific programming for that scenario, it inferred. And now engineers are talking about something called embodied intelligence. The idea that when a mind has a body moving through the physical world, it learns in ways that pure software never can. Every stumble, every failed grip, every recovered balance, the robot learns. Which means the longer these machines exist in our world, the smarter they become. Does that excite you? Or does it make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up? Because where this leads next will make you feel both things at once. In 1970, Japanese roboticist Masahiro Mori noticed something deeply strange. The more human a robot looked up to a point, the more people liked it. But then something broke. People didn't feel comfort, they felt revulsion. He called it the uncanny valley. And we've all felt it in wax museums or CGI faces that are just wrong. Now imagine feeling that while a robot hands you a cup of coffee in your own kitchen. Here's the deeper truth. The fear isn't about how they look, it's about what they imply. When something looks human but isn't, it forces a question we're not comfortable with. What makes us human in the first place? Is it biology? Emotions? AI is learning to simulate those too. Consciousness? We genuinely don't know. Some believe robots should look mechanical to avoid this. Others think pushing through the valley is inevitable. But what if there's something irreplaceable on the human side of that line? Stay with us, because the next chapter is where things get truly complicated. Let's talk about the number that economists whisper about. McKinsey estimates that by 2030, up to 375 million workers globally may need to change occupational categories entirely, because automation will have claimed their current roles. And humanoid robots are the acceleration of that curve. Not just factory workers this time, we're talking delivery, retail, caregiving, construction, even surgery. Here's the uncomfortable analogy. When the cotton gin was invented in 1793, it didn't reduce the demand for cotton labor, it multiplied it and fueled the expansion of slavery. Technology doesn't automatically create justice, it amplifies whatever system it enters. So the question isn't just can robots do these jobs, the question is who benefits when they do. If the productivity gains flow only to the companies that own the robots, then we haven't solved a problem, we've concentrated it. But, and this is crucial, history also shows us something else. Every major technological revolution did create new categories of work that couldn't have been imagined before. The internet killed travel agents. It created social media managers, cloud architects, UX designers. What jobs will the robot revolution create? We don't fully know yet, and that uncertainty is both the greatest risk and the greatest opportunity of our generation. But perhaps the most human question of all is what comes next. Let's look at two futures, both of them possible, both of them beginning right now. Future A. The year is 2040. Humanoid robots handle the physically brutal work like elder care and construction. Humans are free to do what only humans can: create, connect, and decide. Quality of life improves. Future B. The same year. But the transition was badly managed. The economic disruption hit faster than we could respond. Entire communities collapsed. And the robots, they now make decisions that citizens never voted for. Two futures, one choice point. And we are standing at that fork right now. The technology is not the danger. What we choose to do with it is. So what should we choose? I want to take a breath here, because beyond the economics, beyond the policy debates, beyond the investment trends, there's a question that I think is the real one at the heart of all of this. What is it that truly makes us irreplaceable? A robot can lift more than us, move faster than us, remember more than us, soon perhaps reason more efficiently than us. But here's what I keep coming back to. A robot has never chosen to love something. A robot has never stayed up all night because it was afraid. Never sacrificed something precious for a stranger. Never laughed at a joke that wasn't funny just because the person telling it needed the laughter. The philosopher Hannah Arendt wrote about something she called natality, the human capacity to begin things, to initiate, to surprise, to bring something genuinely new into the world. Robots optimize, they improve, but do they begin? I don't know the answer, and I think the honest truth is nobody does yet. But here's what I believe. The question of what makes us human won't be answered by proving robots can't do it. It will be answered by us choosing to do it anyway. Choosing to be present, to be vulnerable, to be imperfect, to be here. That is something no machine can replicate unless we stop doing it ourselves. We began with a question. Are we building a greatest invention or a final one? And having traveled through the history, the science, the economics, and the philosophy, here's where I land. I don't think humanoid robots are our final invention. I think they are our mirror. They are forcing us to ask questions we should have been asking all along. What work deserves dignity? Who benefits when machines create abundance? What do we value that isn't measurable? These aren't new questions, but robots are making them urgent. The generation growing up right now will live alongside humanoid robots the way we live alongside smartphones. They will seem as ordinary as a bus or a hospital bed. The question is not whether that world comes. The question is who decides what that world looks like. And the answer, the only answer that matters, is us. If we stay curious, if we stay engaged, if we demand that this technology serves all of humanity and not just the few who build it, then the hand reaching across that divide can be one of hope. So let me ask you, and I mean you watching this right now, what's your gut reaction to all of this? Are you excited? Are you concerned? Are you both? Drop your answer in the comments. Not a joke. I genuinely want to know where you stand. What's the one thing that scares you most about humanoid robots? Because here at Unvelar, we believe the most important conversations about the future aren't happening in boardrooms or government halls. They're happening between people like you and me. And if this documentary made you think, if it gave you one idea you didn't have before, then it did exactly what we set out to do. We have more coming. Stories about AI, consciousness, the future of cities, the science of memory, the ideas quietly reshaping the world you live in. If you want to be part of that, subscribe to Unvelar, hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Share this with someone who needs to see it. And if this one earned it, leave us a like. We are Unvelar and the story is just beginning.